Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Careers in IT webinar. I'll be the moderator of this session today. My name is Senele Goba. I am the member of the Institute of IT Professionals, and I'm also the chairperson of the board as well as the president of the board. It's a pleasure to have you all here. And I'm looking forward to great conversations regarding careers in IT. It's always been a hot topic, and I don't think it's ever been hotter than this. So it will be good to have those discussions, find some insights, and hopefully everybody will either pitch in something or take away something that's very useful from this session. I have guests with me on this session because I'm not going to deliver it alone. I've got some very dynamic guests. I've got Nyari Samushonga, who's the founder of Within Code. And I've got also Mishong Goveni, who's the founder of Gig Culture. And I've got Prof. Carolyn Thompson, who is a professor at the University of Nelson Mandela University in Abeja. We'll be having a conversation regarding the careers in IT, some myths and conceptions that exist, and we'll be dispelling as many as we can of those. And we'll also be looking at the different types of jobs that are available in the IT market. And then we'll look at opportunities for digital entrepreneurs, the personality that you need to have to thrive in this field, as well as how you can get into IT. But I'd really be happy to see your comments on the chat box. If you've got any questions or any contributions, please feel free to put them on the chat box. And we will have a session at the end, sometime to do comments and questions and answers. So we are going to get onto it and start with our conversation. Prof. Carolyn, Nyari, Misho, welcome. I'd like you to please introduce yourselves. We'll start with you, Prof. Carolyn. If you can just introduce yourself and tell us about your background and your passion within the IT field.
Thanks so much, Sanele. Good afternoon, everyone. As Sanele said, my name is Carolyn Thompson. I'm a professor in the School of Information Technology at Nelson Mandela University. And I'm also the director of CRIX, which is the Center for Research in Information and Cybersecurity at the university. In the context of IITPSA, I'm also the current chair of the SIG Cyber, the Special Interest Group on Cybersecurity, as well as part of the Women in IT committee. So that speaks to some of my passion areas. I'll get to that a little bit later. But I thought I'd just give you a bit of background in terms of what I do and what I've been up to over the past couple of decades. I've been a lecturer and a researcher at the university for over 15 years. And before that, I was the Assistant Academy Manager for the Cisco Networking Academy program. Now, Cisco, global corporation focused on communication networks, and we were responsible, or we still are responsible, just for myself in a bit of a lesser role, in all the academies in sub-Saharan Africa in terms of communication networks. But before that, when I was at school, I was like, I think many people, not really knowing which direction to go into when I started my studies. IT was certainly not top of my list. It wasn't much of a consideration. I didn't do computers at school. I did the general math, science, biology to kind of just open up, and I hadn't decided where I want to go. And I went to a career counselor, and they gave me some options, and they gave me a list of things that I shouldn't really go into based on personality in terms of interests and things like that. And IT was on the list of careers that I shouldn't go into. So I hadn't considered that. I actually applied to be a pharmacist. My dad's a pharmacist, and I applied to be a pharmacist at what was then University of Port Elizabeth. And then, fortunately, looking back on my career and how much I've enjoyed it, I got a bursary to study at Port Elizabeth Technikon. And one of the options there was to do IT. And I still thought at the time, well, IT is getting into everything, even a couple of decades ago. Let me try it for a year and let me see what I think about it, what I can do with it, and turns out I loved it, and I've continued on in IT. So a very fortunate path that I was able to take. I absolutely adore IT. I love the changing nature of IT. And in terms of my passion and what I really enjoy is the cybersecurity aspect of things, that constant, the constantly changing area. I mean, IT itself is, of course, very dynamic, but how do we protect ourselves when we go online? How do you protect people? So I have an interest in the technical side, but very much my research, my passion is people. And it's interacting with people, awareness, education, training about things like cyber security and cyber safety. And one of my current projects is working with grade R's and grade 1s, where we are laying the foundation for how to be a good digital citizen. And we've developed animated cartoons and little characters based on the big five, really trying to lay the foundation for that next generation of digital citizens. So I'll chat a bit later, but that's me for now. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Prof. Caroline. And you've touched on very important points, which we'll discuss further once we've done all the introduction, especially about your role models, being your parents, and you know, naturally following the career that you are exposed to. So we'll talk further later on. Thank you. Nyari, please do introduce yourself.
Thank you. And I'll start with the correction. I'm not a founder of We Think Code. I actually joined We Think Code after it was up and running.
Okay, all right.
But I think my heart bleeds We Think Code, but credit to the 4 people that dreamt it up before it was even a thing. And their trust in me to steer the ship over the last 5 years. But yeah, really excited to be here. I'm also a member of the IITPSA, and my journey into tech is a little bit unusual. I started out as an accountant, trained and practiced for many years, and got to a point where I was now trying to figure out what was the next phase of my career, a decade in. And at the core of who I am is curiosity. And as an accountant, I was a curious accountant, and it gave me permission to speak to so many interesting and different business leaders and understand how they ran their businesses. And at some point when I knew I didn't want to be an accountant anymore and I didn't know what I wanted to do, I spoke to so many people. I spoke to lawyers, I spoke to doctors, I spoke to everyone. Like, okay, I'm just going to go back to school and figure it out, but what is it? And it was in that journey that I think tech found me, because I found a consulting company, an American one that was just about to open in South Africa. And they were actually actively looking for people that didn't have IT backgrounds, because what they were trying to do was build these teams that had diverse subject matter expertise that would be part of building solutions in those domains. And so my financial services background and the diversity of clients that I had serviced. I mean, I had worked, I could value the roots of sugarcane, or I could value a precious metals commodity, auditing farms, hotels, car dealerships, and so forth. And so IT, quite similar to that background, and I think we'll talk about this more, has become pervasive. Literally just about everything you're doing, you're touching a computer of some kind in some way. And so similarly, being a curious person who's interested in all these bits and pieces and how they come together, IT became the next wave of my career. So I'm always excited to share what that journey has been and to hear from other people what their journey is, and essentially to encourage everybody that no one looks like an IT person or sounds like an IT person or comes from an IT background. It's really just more about all of us putting our hands together and choosing to be active in creating the next phase of our world, because IT is a big part of that. So thank you for inviting me, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And thank you for the correction. And I like what you said about curiosity, because I fully agree. And curiosity really did not kill the cat. I think it really it solves a lot of problems. Thank you for that, Nyari. Now we move on to Misha. Misha, please do come in and introduce yourself.
All right, thanks for that. Great intros from the other two. Love it. I love the secret element and also love what Nyari is doing at We Think Code. So big ups to the both of you. So yeah, my name is Misho Ngobeni, and I'm the co-founder of Geek Culture, which is a tech platform for connecting young people to the world of technology. So we connect young people from high schools, universities, and young people that are looking for opportunity in the tech space with those particular opportunities, be it training, be it workshops, but we just create an environment where they're learning something extra outside what the institutional environment is exposing them to. But at the same time, we're bringing them and creating an environment where they're in the same room as industry players. So this could be from a thing as a hackathon. We do quite a number of hackathons. It could be as simply as trainings. It could be meetups. We're trying to do tech over coffee, or we just have a casual talk around tech and not really complicate things. So yeah, that's a bit of geek culture. There's quite a lot of things that we do around geek culture. My interest in tech, I think I've been interested in tech for a while. Went to study engineering, simply because of two things. I loved what you could do with sound systems. So I went to do electronic engineering, but I dropped out of engineering. Again, not encourage anyone to drop out, but I just was not seeing what I really wanted to feel. I didn't see the business side of what was going on in engineering at that time. I was not being exposed to that side because I've always had a thing for the business side, but also the technology side of things. So I went to study business informatics at TUT. And the reason, again, it offered me those two things that I wanted from a business side and from a technology side. So I'm not a deep coder. So sorry to disappoint those who think I'll be dropping huge tech terms. But I really love tech. And I think over the past years, I've spent so much time with some of the smartest people in tech, and some of those being young people in university, seeing what they build, what they come up with, lots of inspiring things. And obviously the big wish is for all that content and all the things that they build, for them to take it either to market, or at least it best positions them to get that job. So that's one of the things that we strive for. Big Manchester fan. So if anyone is a Manchester fan here, please cry with me because it's really tough. Yeah, so that's the kind of things that I really get into. And
Which
I
side
love football.
is that? Are
Sorry?
you blue? Are you red?
I am no, I'm definitely red. So I'm
Uh-oh.
crying quite a lot every
Shall we
week
end? Shall we end
non-stop.
this conversation now? Thank you, Mister, for letting us know. And yeah, well, we our hearts are with you on the red jersey, but it's only a season. Thank you so much. So I also would like to acknowledge the presence of our board members among us. Thank you for joining us, Josina and Prof. Lynn, and all our valuable members of the Institute. I really look forward to your contributions in this session, to be able to share as much knowledge as possible, because I know that we've got some very young people here that would like to know as much as possible. We've got some people who may be as confused as Prof. Caroline was when she was younger. So we want to make sure that we have those clarifications. So if we just get into it, let's talk about the myths and the misconceptions that we find around careers in IT. Who really works in the field of IT? Like, what kind of person do we expect to see in there? And is it a career? Is it a career for more for women or for men? And what are the views that we've heard that perhaps have in a way pushed us away from it? Like you said, Prof. Caroline, that IT was not even anywhere in your head, but at some point you found yourself following it. My background, I wanted to do anything with computers because I was fascinated by a computer, but I didn't know what computer science meant. But I said I would pursue a career in computer science. That my surprise to the way the subject was structured was both exciting and very depressing, because it was learning a new field and really getting to to be uncomfortable with my kind of performance. and having to learn something new means you're failing over and over, but you keep going until you make it. So let's have a look at what is it that we've heard as the myths and the misconceptions. Perhaps if I can just start with you, Prof. Caroline, what myths have you heard of that you would like to dispel? Maybe just give us one, and we'll move to the next guest as well.
Thanks, Sanele. Yeah, I think there are so many in general in the world these days, so many myths, so much fake news, so much misinformation that's out there. When I think it comes into IT, you mentioned about is it a field for women? Is it a field for men? And I think perhaps maybe not a myth, but a perception is that IT is more for men. And if you look at the industry, you look at IT, the demographics of people who go into IT, there are more men in the field. But part of what we try to do is to encourage women to go into IT. IT is so diverse that I think part of the myth as well is IT is sitting behind a computer all day, every day. Which perhaps it was for certain career types when I started out in IT. But IT is so dynamic and exciting now in that it's about teamwork and it's about collaboration. And, men and women in particular, I think are really good at communicating skills. And so, to work in those teams and to get things, to facilitate things and to get things going and projects, it's just an exciting space to be in. So I think the myth is, this is for guys. If I'm a girl wanting to choose where I'm going, IT is not on my radar because there's other fields for women to go into. Yeah.
Okay. And Nyari, is it for women? Is it for men? What other myths are there?
I think the other big myth is it's for these superstar geniuses, the wonder kids in school that have these mathematical brains. The people who from like when we were learning our times tables, just like got it like that, while the rest of us were still trying to deal with running out of fingers to count. And so, the work we do at We Think Code, we recruit young people from diversity of backgrounds, and we administer aptitude tests around actually coding. And what you then find is software is a language or a range of languages with which you instruct the computer on what to do. And with the progress that we're seeing towards low-code solutions, where you're not actually using the more complex programming languages, it's also coming back to just being, your natural language. But when you're in a place like South Africa, where just about everyone is at least bilingual, you start to realize that we're actually wired to learn another language, and this is a language to speak to the computer. So that's one of the myths we bust. And one of the things that I love about the work Misha and the guys at Geek Culture do is they create energy and fun around it, which reduces that intimidation factor. Because when you're raised to think smart, clever mathematicians do it, then you don't even want to touch the computer. And when you touch it and you mess up, you think, it's like a confirmation bias that thing that said I never should have been here has been confirmed. And whether it's because you're a minority in the field, at least as a woman or as a Black person, as a person with a disability, then suddenly the fear you had in you is confirmed by some, random event. And you don't realize that the genius mathematicians are also fighting with the computer and trying to convince it to listen to them. And so that's the passion for me, is this thing that I keep saying this, when I was young, on a Saturday morning, my mom is very structured. At the end of the month, we had a list of bills we had to pay. And we would go with a checkbook and write a check for Edgar's, a check for whoever. We'd have a statement they sent us in the mail, a check that's signed, and that's how we paid bills. Now, thank you for the fireworks. Now, if you think of the way the world is now, suddenly I don't even have a branch. I don't have a branch. I never go to the literal bank. I bought a home, and every aspect of applying for my mortgage, except where they make you finally sign the mortgage with wet ink, is done without me, meeting anyone face to face. I wake up with an alarm. I wear an activity tracker to monitor what's happening with my health. I cycle on a stationary bike and I look at an avatar of myself on a screen and I'm getting excited and competing with people that I don't even know if they're real, And so the world is changing for everyone because we're all immersed in a tech world. And so because of that, the building of tech needs to be for everyone so that the solutions we create service a diversity of people. So it's as much a fun and interesting place for curiosity as it is a place for business, as it is a place for schooling, you know what I'm saying? So that's the big myth for me, is that there's a special, unique group of people that are competent and qualified for it. And yeah, I keep trying to convince everyone that that's not true. Yes, there are parts of computer science that are very mathematical and computational, and there are people who are best for that. But there are a lot of parts of it that are creative, that are communicative, that are about business, that are about social impact, that are about just about everything. So tech is for everyone, and people should engage it to create tech, not just consume what other people made. And so that's what I would say.
Sounds really good. It's not only for geniuses. Michelle, do you agree? Is there any other myth? You started with electronics engineering and you found yourself loving business and technology. Some people say, well, technology, people in IT can't speak to anybody. They can't do business. That's one of the myths I've heard. What do you think, Michelle? What else can you add among the myths that you must dispel?
I mean, there's quite a lot of myths. One which I've been fighting to, which has been hard, is people that wear glasses are nerds and geeks are nerds. It's been a tough one to fight because I can't see and I'm always wearing my glasses. But it's also one that, people in IT are not social. Again, I've met some really amazing people who are in tech. It's just that when they start talking, like, you're in tech. But other than that, you are able to socialize with them very nicely. But I think the biggest one is the assumption that when you start thinking about IT or the technology space, it's this assumption that everything is coding. Technology is coding, IT is coding. And I think that's the mistake that a lot of young people get exposed to, where they think, okay, now that I'm saying I'm going to do IT, the only thing out there is, coding. Yes, it is. Sometimes it plays a fundamental role in the different fields out there. But there's so many different vast spaces you can venture into in the tech space. We're seeing a lot of, things in the fintech blowing up. Cybersecurity is another big one as well. People think when you're cybersecurity space, you have to be the world's greatest hacker. But sometimes you're not even a hacker at all. You just really understand what happens in that space. Business informatics is in the IT space. I love the field because it really analyzes a lot of things in terms of the business side of things, and before or during when IT comes in. So those are the different fields that, the myths that I've come across, that especially that one of IT is straight out programming, and that's how some people end up running away from it. But when they start getting exposed to events like activities like this, they realize, oh, there's something called cybersecurity. There's something called a tester, and those are not things that you really hear when you start off, and when other people out there. And obviously that big myth that if you're in IT, you can fix anything, a printer, and you can hack partners, Facebook account or whatnot. That is one of those biggest myths out there.
To be honest, Misha, my kids think I know everything. Well, that's what I tell them about their phones.
You see,
But
that's one of
definitely,
the biggest problems.
that's definitely interesting. It's not only for geeks, hey, and it's not for the nerds. It's it's
Mm.
it's it's a very wide field. And I like what you've said there in terms of the fact that there are so many different aspects of IT that don't necessarily need you to become a programmer. There's a really wide. We cannot exhaust that list today, but I think it's good to maybe just get onto some fields that exist within the IT, maybe on the high level. Prof. Lynn, you've told us about, Prof. Caroline, you've told us about the cybersecurity, which is the field that you are working in. You also the networking aspect, which speaks to the Cisco systems. There's a whole lot of other ones. Now, I want us to look at those ranges, that range of jobs that are available. Maybe I can speak about my kind of background also, because I started off in programming, computer science, but I did specialize in electronics along with computer science. And by specializing in electronics, then I found myself going into a job that related to computer automation. And the automation speaks to machines, specifically programming the machines, but also designing the solutions around the business in order to make sure that the machines deliver the solutions that the business wants. And you can also then tell the business how they are doing in terms of their efficiencies. And then you can also identify any opportunities for improvement in terms of the business processes, how you can optimize them. And you do that through your automation specialization. So for me, it was a whole new world. As much as when I got the job, I didn't know what it was going to entail. And I discovered there that this is another field, completely big field of which is part of IT, part of engineering, but it's something that I would not have known about at university. So I guess with that, it's very important for us to embrace the journey and allow ourselves to discover the new fields as we go through them. So what other fields, what other jobs are available in the market? Maybe if you can list for us about, maybe if I start with you, Nyari, if you can list for us the jobs that you prepare the youngsters for at Within Code, and what interest you see among your participants.
How big is the ocean? How long is it to swim? It's entirely endless. And, one of the things that's happening as well is the range of what you want to do. So, for example, one of the things that I enjoy solving business problems. And recently I've been mentoring a small group of our students to solve a problem. And they had gone through the We Think Code process, and they're brilliant and they're great coders. But then now I'm teaching them about a product, which is, you can't just go and code without knowing what you're coding, right? So now we've got to think about who needs this product and what problem are they trying to solve, right? So if you think about a bank and you're building something for a bank, who is the customer of the bank? What are they, what are their ages? What devices do they use? What are they trying to achieve when they pick up their phone and log into the app? And how do we make sure that the thing that we're building is actually useful? So learning to code is you basically pick up a toolbox. It doesn't mean you're going to be any good at fixing anything. And so fixing things is actually about that immersion. And I think those are the conversations that I have with people. Like, so what interests you in the world and what types of problems? Are they in health? Are they in education? Are they in finance? Are they in sporting? What interests you as a person? And start to move towards that and take your toolbox with it. The other thing as well is, and I'm getting to that age where I'm old enough to say, when I was young, but one of the things that my work centers around is this idea of South Africa has like a crazy unemployment problem. Like 60% of youth are unemployed. So we've got like about 9.1 million young people that don't have jobs. And 8.4 million of those young people, the highest qualification that they've got is matric. Tech, if you can give people access to devices and connectivity, suddenly changes how you participate in that world. And so for me, the excitement is about the problem you see that no one else seems to be seeing is your problem to solve. So be creative. And now more and more with tech, whether you're a programmer, and writing lines of code, or just an ideas person and able to use a lot of out-of-the-box solutions that are low code, that you can take things that another programmer, or actually nowadays AI created, to now stick it together. I don't know if you're familiar with Scratch, which is that MIT tool that we use to introduce usually young kiddies to concepts of programming and putting things together. But that's a similar way that it's like puzzle pieces that you stick together to solve a problem. And if we can bring more young people into IT, not as an end, like IT is a job, but IT is a tool to do jobs, and the jobs are endless. And the types of IT tools that you can use to do those jobs are endless. So if you're a person who sells something, suddenly using something like Shopify to create a marketplace to sell your things is a little bit of tech, but it's really a lot of being a merchant, right? Creating websites. If you're a person with a good eye, using things like Wix, you can now compile and bring together a website without knowing CSS and all these other things. And so that to me is really where digital is a tool. It's not really a thing unless it's solving a problem. So go towards what you're curious about. And for young people, what I say is just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean it's bad, because there's not a lot of opportunity. So take the opportunity you find and start there, and then navigate to the next rung on the ladder and the next rung on the ladder. Because gone are the days where you go to high school, you pass your matric, you pick your job. I'm going to be an engineer. You study engineering, you get your engineering job. 50 years later, you retire and they give you a watch and thank you for your many years of service. Life is now a very scenic route through career. So take the opportunities that you do find, apply yourself, have fun, be curious, and then with the knowledge that you gain from being there about yourself, what you enjoy and what you're good at, navigate to the next point and navigate to the next point. But don't think of yourself as, I will be an accountant, I will be a lawyer, I will be a geek. You know, you'll be all of those things in one lifetime if you want to be, and tech makes it easier to access them. So that's my sense of what the power of tech is really doing, is it's making careers accessible, it's making entrepreneurship accessible, it's making creativeness accessible to people who structurally would have been denied that opportunity. And I think that's an exciting time to be in.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it makes me think about you know, when you speak about all these different roles and where tech really comes in, we basically touch tech probably with every second moves that we make. And maybe Prof. Lynn, you can assist me here, because universities don't have a lot of space to take these millions of matriculants that have just completed their degrees. What options are there at the universities, firstly, but also what options are there beyond the university space? Are there any options of micro-credentialing, perhaps, or certification that does not necessarily require you to have a degree as your base in order to pursue your career in IT? Can you give us a little bit about that, and maybe a bit of a background about what Nelson Mandela Metro University offers?
Sure, thanks. So yeah, so we don't have the space for everybody, and we also don't have all the time that it would take to you know, upskill everyone in what you would need for your particular specialization area in IT. As Nyari was saying, I mean, the list is endless. I think it was posted in the chat as well. We would need a good few hours if we just were to sit and list all the career options that are out there. And what's beautiful about IT is that you start studying now, in a few years' time, when you graduate, there's going to be new career options out there. We don't even know exactly where tech is going and all the careers out there. So when I say we don't have all the time, we have a finite 3-4 years, 5 if we're lucky with the graduates, to try and give everyone the idea behind a qualification or going into a higher education institution with IT is to give that broad knowledge, is to give a taste of the stuff that's out there, right? So you're not going to walk out there a specialized programmer or a specialized networker or a specialized AI, depending, of course, on the qualification. I'm talking about something like an IT diploma. But we try to give you a taste of everything and that broad knowledge that you will need to determine what your interest is. And that's, Nyari was saying that as well, in terms of, I can't say to you or to anyone, this is the career you need to go into IT. My passion is cybersecurity, but it took me a little while to get there. I started out, as I said, in communication networks. I knew pretty soon I wasn't a programmer. So Misha, I was very happy to hear that you said it's not all programming, because that's not me. And it's a very important point, because you think like, oh, no, I don't. I've seen programming. I don't like it. I'm not going to do that. I can't do that. Or I don't want to do that for the next how long. And IT is very much this winding road, Nyari, as you said as well, in where you think you might be interested. I thought I was going to be a programmer, turned out not to be a programmer. And then I found the cybersecurity thing, which is massive in itself in terms of the skills gap and how many jobs are available out there for cybersecurity alone. So what we try and do at academic institutions is to give everyone a taste. And then you can say, right, I really enjoyed this ethical hacking module that I did. I'm going to look and see if I can specialize and look at things like certifications and how I can then specialize and go a bit deeper in my chosen aspect of IT. Because IT as well, I think a lot of people think, well, a career in IT, you need to go and work for a company. And we've had a number of our students, entrepreneurship is a massive part of, for a lot of our alumni, they've gone out, they've founded their own companies, or they go and work for companies, and then they branch off and they're doing their own projects as well, which is so exciting to see. That it's not this, I have to go and work for big tech. I have to go and work for this company. You can also create your own space within the IT industry, which is really nice as well. But of course, learning is not always cheap. These certifications you mentioned, they are very pricey depending on the certification. But fortunately, there are a lot of courses that are more accessible. Things like Udemy, Coursera, very, very good courses out there, fundamental courses that you can take for, a few $100, very good courses, lots of content that you can go and explore to perhaps see, is this something that I want to do? And to delve a bit deeper into, this is what a job may actually be like, or this is the kind of stuff I need to do on a day-to-day basis, and not just my idea of what an IT career might be.
Yeah, that sounds interesting, Prof. Caroline. When I think about the different options that are there, I know the different universities will offer different options, and also the universities of technology will also have a wide variety of options. Someone might be confused and wondering, but I like business, I like accounting, but I also like tech. Can I combine these two? I know that at UCT, they do offer those options where you can combine two different fields. You can combine your business field as well as with your computer science, or you can also combine your science, specific science courses with computer science. There are many, many, many options. At the same time, with the certifications and the entrepreneurship, it makes it all quite diverse. And I want to come to you, Misho, about the business aspect of it. Since you've been into the business and you're working with technology, what kind of personalities would you say are ideal? What kind of personality is ideal for a person to really thrive in the IT sector? Do they need to be business minded, perhaps? Do they need to be, the nerd that we said it should be, but that we said is a myth? We've dispelled that myth already. But I also want at the end for us to talk about that one of those fundamental personalities that are required. But I'll leave that for the end. Justina will remind me about this because it's a passionate field of hers. So Misha, please tell me about the personality that you think is important or critical in pursuing a successful career in IT.
I think the most important one is, or the most important ones, I think, are the curiosity. If you have that curiosity, I've seen we've had a lot of young people come through the different initiatives that we have, or some we've come across, and the big thing that stood out about them is that curiosity. How does this work? And 14-year-olds, 13-year-olds, and throughout their journey, they then eventually got into the IT field simply because of that curiosity. So some people get curious from a young age, 7. They get exposed to Lego robots and Lego blocks and all those kind of things. It builds an element of curiosity. So curiosity, never let that die. Whether you get older, you start working. I've seen people in industry or heard people in industry who are crying because that curiosity element has died off. So curiosity is one. I think generally IT is all about problem solving of some sort. Whether it's you trying to find where that semicolon is, or you trying to find where the error is days later, you're trying to crack whatever it needed to crack. At the end of the day, you need to solve. There's different ways of really solving a problem, but you just need to solve. So those two. But I think the best candidates are those that ask questions. Not being afraid of being in a space where I'm asking a question. If I'm not sure about something, let me ask. But ask after you've tried as well. While you've attempted, just ask as much as possible. So I've seen a lot of people progress nicely through just asking. It always saves them lots of time around. So those are two critical ones. Balancing business and the IT world, I think again, there's a conception techies are not good in business because they like solving stuff and they just want to build. You go to a hackathon, they already got their ready to start coding, and like, what are you coding? They're not quite sure as yet what the solution looks like, but they're just ready to code. So there is that learning, but I think the key thing I'll tell everybody on the call is learn soft skills. So soft skills, being able to communicate with people, being able to the ability to ask questions, to ask for help. So soft skills are great and very important. And I've heard like people have struggle with interviews as well, simply because of that soft skills element. So some people are very technically, they're good, but some companies are like, yeah, we see that part, but you are missing on this particular area. And those are things that we are looking for as well.
Hmm, hmm. That sounds really good. The soft skills, which we have to pick up at every aspect of our lives. Being able to ask the right questions, because sometimes we can ask the question and it may not necessarily lead us to the answer. But finding ways to ask the right question, finding ways to pay attention to the detail, that small detail, which will help you find that semicolon. Of course, like you said, there's a wide field within IT. There's the deep programming aspect, which a lot of people can really enjoy and have a really important place to play, because we do need at the back of every low code platform, there's a programmer that has developed that kind of platform. So there's a wide range available for everyone. And it's similar to, if you haven't worked in that space, you cannot say I cannot go there. You must have that explorative personality to say I want to see what's in there. That curiosity, it makes it really quite interesting, and being able to then work out the level of risk and identify the risks that may be involved. But it's because it's not only about just exploring and finding ways. Ethical hacking speaks to another line of hacking, which is destructive. So it's important for us to understand what bad we can do with technology, because technology gives us a lot of power. What bad can we do? So I will rope in Justina for just a minute. Justina, if you can allow me to hijack you to speak about tech for good, ethics. How can we? What's the importance of ethics in all the decisions that you make about choosing a career in IT? I'm sorry to hijack you, but I know that you're always ready and you are passionate about this. Are you there, Justina?
Yeah, I'm there, Sanella. Thank you very much. So I want to tell everybody next week we'll be releasing an interesting video about the importance of ethics in IT. So I really urge you to watch our social media channels so you can pick up on that. But I think it's the exciting thing, and that's also why I see a lot more careers happening in digital, because digital transformation has such a hugely positive impact on, for example, achieving these sustainable development goals. There's research done that 70% of the 169 targets of the Sustainable Development Goals have been impacted by digital. There's so many solutions dealing with, for example, climate change mitigation and adaptation. Just Google AI for good and see the amazing things that are happening there. So the opportunities to do good are always there. And I think, and you probably already talked about it when you talk about, the skills you need to have, ask questions, being curious, where we say sometimes, even if you do digital for good, it's also important to sometimes reflect and make sure that you don't miss the boat somewhere. So a very important ethical principle is, how do I, avoid harm? How do I avoid harm? How do I make sure that my digital solutions are what they call guardrailed? So we don't impact the rights of other people. So we're talking about human rights. We make sure that we don't make the digital divide any wider. We are cautiously looking at, how is my digital solution sustainable? Energy usage and things like that you can think of. But also in the code I'm writing, do we have this process in place where multiple people look at it, a diverse group of people looks at it? Because it's very well possible that if you sit in your own bubble and you all look and think and do the same, that there can be bias in the code that you bring out. And you would rather do this check before you put anything out into the world than that you do it and then it comes back to haunt you. There are numerous examples of, well, remember what happened with ChatGPT hasn't had those problems, but other machine learning tools have come back with crazy answers and racial bias in it. So, okay, I can keep going forever, but I hope I answered your question a bit. And please follow the social media of IITPSA and see the wonderful video we've created next week.
We look forward to it. Thank you so much, Justina. I think the ethics become a fundamental building block, a foundational building block of careers that we may pursue in IT. Because without the ethics, then we really can be the sources of the end of our world as we know it. So I think this does bring us to the end of our conversation. I would like us to just wrap it up though, with just a short message from each one of my guests about, what they would like to say to someone who wants to pursue a career in IT and perhaps maybe at the crossroads. What should they look out for? What should they do? How should they proceed from here? I'll start with Prof. Caroline.
So yeah, my advice, it's touching on the personality aspects, is to be in IT, to choose IT as a career, you need to be hungry. You need to be hungry for knowledge. You need to be hungry for learning, for meeting challenges. Because, the idea of, I'm going to do this certification or do this degree and I'm set up for life in IT is not going to work, right? You have to constantly be upskilling, constantly learning, which makes it a very exciting and very fast-paced environment to be a part of. So if that sounds, like a career option for you, it doesn't stand still. There's always something new to learn. Very, very exciting. And perhaps I've seen there's a couple of questions about maths in the chat that's coming up. And that speaks to the, Nyari saying about, you don't have to be a genius or mathematically inclined. There are so many IT options where pure maths, you don't have to have pure maths. to go into a diploma or a degree or certainly a certification. So, you know, if that's something that you feel like is holding you back, oh, I'd love to, but I don't have pure maths, I can't choose it as an option. You know, anyone's welcome to contact me or any university to look at the options and see what those criteria are. And just to explore and read and see what piques your interest, to see if IT is going to be the career for you.
Thank you very much for that, Prof. Carolyn. From your side, Michelle?
I would say the one skill you need to do is check if you're muted. And then the other one is, you know, network as much as possible. I know as young people, especially from while you're still learning, it has an intimidating factor. While I was still in university, I loved the Brainstorm magazine, and I would take the Brainstorm magazine, I'd go through it and read all about the different personalities and people that are there, what they do, their companies. Then I'd make a list of the different companies that are there and those that I'd ideally want to work with. Then I started following them. Then I'd go to events because the magazine would tell me where the events are happening. I'm pretty sure most of you are not touching any magazines around tech right now because everything is online. But follow those different people that you are interested in. I see there's a question here around what if I'm not interested? How do I find if I'm interested? By following those type of people, you get to see what do they talk about. When you go to those particular events, even if it's webinars like this, because sometimes travel is a challenge, you get to hear what is it that they're talking about. I think on this call alone, there's already 4 different fields that were mentioned. And if you are interested in any of those particular fields, you do reach out. Okay, I'm speaking on behalf of the others, but ideally in an ideal situation, you do reach out to those people and then they'll give some bit of guidance or some bit of direction. But yeah, please be curious as much as possible, learn as much as possible, network as much as possible, and attend such events as this. And if you want to do some practical things, go to a hackathon. In a hackathon, you'll get to see what others are doing. I think that's my favorite part about it. You get to see what others are doing. You get to learn how it feels to work in a team, and you get to start understanding, do I really want to spend the whole weekend of my life, you know, coding, even at 3 a.m., drinking coffee and energy drinks? That's not for you, then that's how you quickly switch and do something else. So it might even help you a bit.
Wonderful. No, thank you so much. The point about following the media and people that are in the field, I think it plays quite a big role, and we do discover it quite late sometimes in our lives. So I think it's a great opportunity for someone who's still looking. I saw a question there, like you're saying, for a question from Asavela, sorry, a question from Peto about how do I know that it's the right fit for me? Expose yourself. Follow the platforms like the IT Web. IT Web offers a lot of news about IT and anything related to IT, a wide range. So as you read the news, you get to read about different roles that exist in the career field. You read about the different challenges that exist or problems that exist. Then you may be able to actually think up a solution for it. You can see different organizations that may offer training for a certain specific specialization in IT. So do follow that. I like that point, Misha, quite a lot. Thank you very much. Nyari, from your side, what can you say? And after Nyari, I'm then going to go through to the questions on the chat, and then we will wrap it up.
Yeah, I think for me, it's about 2 things: being open-minded and being proactive and doing the hard work. There aren't shortcuts. So, I mean, if you speak to the people that are on this panel, they're sharing the side of the parts aren't the obvious ones and the myths, steer clear of them. But if you follow their work, you'll see that these are incredibly hardworking people that have taken themselves very seriously and been proactive. I mean, even listening to Misho talking about, he didn't just read the magazine for vibes, right? Like he read the magazine, extracted information, used the information to do the next thing and to move on. And if you listen to the prof talking about switching into cyber, she actually built a career on one path and then had to learn things and apply herself and be intimidated and out of her depth as a person with a proficiency in one area, stepping into a field that's new. So I think the first thing is open mind. It's not necessarily about going to university. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It might be about going to a place like We Think Code. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe you go to a hackathon and you find something that's interesting, and you can find a lot of free learning material online, and you immerse yourself in that, and that's how you find your path. Maybe it's a little bit of everything. You go to university and you do one thing, you end up in an academy like We Think Code and you do something, and while you're at We Think Code, you land up at a geek culture hackathon, and then you find your tribe. But the key thing is this understanding that discovery is in the quest. So you're not going to sit in a pretty little chair and Lady Luck knocks on the door and says, Nyari, here it is, all the answers in a cute box and it's wrapped. Open your mind up and then be proactive and do the work, because it takes 25 years to be an overnight success. And in those 25 years, you best be grafting. And it's easier to graft if you're following a quest towards areas where you're curious. So people approach me a lot and wanting to be mentored. And now my new thing, when anyone wants to be mentored by me, whether they realize it or not, I just give 1 or 2 tasks. And if you show up tomorrow, Pollyanna, nothing happened, I'm like, my time is precious. We're going to keep it moving. So I think the key thing is take yourself seriously, but not too seriously. So keep an open mind and just go where the opportunities are. Because let's be honest, in South Africa, we're not drowning in opportunity. So where the door opens, enter there. And then once you've entered there, see where the path can lead you. Listen to what you're experiencing and apply yourself. It won't be given to you. You've got to earn it. But even if the way you earn it isn't the obvious way, it can be earned. So that's my words, I hope, of encouragement, that the choices are yours to make and the work is yours to do.
One words of advice. Hopefully it does touch onto each of the questions that we have in mind. Are you still able to hear me? Good. All right. So we do have some questions, some of which have been answered. We had a question about business management, majoring. Some Preeti was doing an IT majoring in business management and computer science. She wants to be a business analyst, but she didn't do maths. Will that be a disadvantage when she applies for a job or not? Prof?
Not when applying for a job. So, you know, there may be a degree or a diploma or qualification that you'd like to apply for. Some may require pure maths, some may not. That would be once you're in that qualification, and certainly once you have that qualification, they're not going to look at whether you had maths or IT or whatever at school. So that wouldn't hold you back.
Indeed.
Can I just
Absolutely.
add onto that as well?
Yes,
I know a lot of people who've transitioned from software development to other fields, including business analysis and testers. So, I mean, yeah, you do not really need those, and it's slightly easier. Again, it goes with what Nyari also mentioned, your curiosity as well, your hunger. It goes with that. If you really want to get there, you know, you will easily transition.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. And indeed, it should not limit you. I remember the challenge with integration when I started learning about calculus. It was really high in the sky. And when I started working and had to do a problem, to solve a problem, I actually applied integration without even thinking about it. So once it becomes practical, the understanding of those concepts become very, very easy. So I don't think you need to worry a lot about what subjects you haven't done. You are already pursuing the field. Now it's about you gaining the skills that you may need. And as long as you're a person who wants to learn, I think that the future is really bright. We also have a question we've got a lot of questions. I'm not sure if we'll be able to cover all of them. We have a question from Rohan, who's in grade 11. But Emmanuel has answered that question. He wanted to know if he wants to study to become a software engineer, systems architect. But after doing some research about 2 degrees, the two main distinctions, computer science and information technology, which would be best, and how would he find out which one is better for himself? That is a question from Rohan. So how can you tell which of these computer science and information technology is better for him. I think this might be a discussion of that might take a while. But Misha, do you want to give it a shot?
I think this is almost like, do you like a Benz or do you like a BMW situation? It really goes with, there is not really one which is, I would say, is better than the others. Some people excel very well. Some get good pays in one, and sometimes in the other, it's not always so good. So it's not really that much of a difference as well. There is some slight differences here and there. But again, it just goes with, do you like a BMW or do you like a Benz?
Okay. Thank you so much. Prof?
Yes, if I can just add there, just broad strokes, differences between doing an IT diploma or a degree in computer science. IT information technology qualifications are quite focused in terms of all your modules, all your subjects are technology related. Whereas computer science, you'll of course have the technology modules, but there will be business, or there could be accounting, or there could be, sort of broader fields that you may have an interest in as well. So it really depends as well how decided are you, I guess, on going into IT. Then perhaps IT is, where everything is focused on technology, may be better for you. But if you're looking to integrate technology into different disciplines, different aspects, then perhaps computer science. So again, it's that question of, like I said, no one's better, no one's worse. It's your journey, and where do you want to take that qualification? And for you to decide, go and research. It's all about that reading and that getting the knowledge of, well, what does this IT qualification offer? What does this computer science offer in terms of modules, in terms of topics covered, to see what strikes your interest as well.
Indeed. Mary?
You can also just change your mind. Just start, pick a thing, throw a dice, do a thing. Doesn't work, change your mind. Like, don't be so. It's not that deep. I think that's what you learn as you're getting older. Is some of these things you agonize over are much of a muchness, like Misha said, right? So I agree with read up on it, try some exercises, but also just, you can change your mind. So just pick one. And then either you like it or you don't, and just change direction. Which is why, I think it's Gina's question. Is it Gia, who's 40? I'm 42. I switched to tech when I was 31. Just go for it. And if you're worried that something will be daunting, try it out and see if it overwhelms you. Find a meetup that has people that are getting together and working on that thing, so that you're exploring it in community and you're not alone with your intimidation, but you're in a place where you can be vulnerable and open while you try to learn. And then other people with a little bit more experience can lend it to you. And so don't cerebrally make the decision, experience it, and then see if your perception of what might be daunting or even what might be exciting matches the reality when you do it. So no, I'm like, the only thing that a woman over 40 shouldn't wear is the weight of other people's opinion.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Wonderful. Go for it. You can change your mind at any point. You can find your passion at 50. There's also a question. I think it's there's someone who asked about moving into the cybersecurity at the age of 50. I've lost that question now. But I think Nyari has answered that kind of question, that do explore. And the important thing really is the interpersonal skills that you have, the problem-solving skills, the ability to learn new things. It can then take you anywhere. There are so many jobs that don't exist yet. And if we are saying we're studying for a job, then we are in a bit of trouble, because then we'll be unemployed or out of jobs anytime very soon. I'll take one last question, which was about internship. There's a lot of questions, and I'm sorry, we've got only 4 minutes remaining in our schedule. It's a question about internship. Two people actually asked similar questions to say, what kind of internship can I get while I'm studying? And I think it's quite a good question, because you want to get that exposure to get to hear where, do I really like this? How is it applied in the real world or in the business world? what can they do to find out about internships while they are studying towards their degrees, for instance?
That's an interesting one. I don't know broadly because there's many internships as there are companies. So I would just say look at it. If you can afford it to be interning for free when you volunteer, people are more willing to take you on because they might not have budget and plans for it. But if you're willing to show up there and be helpful and you can afford to be at a place full time without earning, then try that out during holidays and vac, and do that. And then I think that the one other thing I just want to add is like, jobs are overrated in the sense that these job descriptions, I don't know if anyone who's ever led any team, yes, one of the most stressful things is writing a job description. Because I'm writing the job description, but what was that thing Barack Obama said? Somebody asked him, what he looks for in people he works with. And he's like, people who can get shit done. And so one of the things that I've loved to do in my career is to get really close to people that can make decisions and then over time very quickly turn the job into what I want to do. And then more recently, I've operated more like an entrepreneur. So my job is to plug whichever leak in the ceiling is about to drown the house. But jobs aren't as stiff and specific as people might imagine. Largely, it's a desk you sit at with a responsibility to achieve an outcome. And you'll be amazed at the range of skills you end up needing beyond what you studied or what you thought it was. So you went and you thought if you got straight A's and distinctions in your computer science exams, then you could be the developer. And then suddenly you discover to solve the problem for your client, you're almost like a social worker, getting them to calm down and speak to you in clear sentences. You discover that a big part of being successful is you're working on a team and it's getting the team motivated. You discover that you're buried in too much information and you need to get organized and administratively on top of things. So jobs aren't this one thing where you do one degree and then it prepares you and you get in the job and it's that task forever. They're actually an opportunity for you to show up and just be like, what are the problems and what are the outcomes we seek? And then apply yourself proactively. And that way you just get more juice out of your whole person, not the one little corner that university gave you or the diploma gave you. So just apply for what's there and then talk to people and then take the opportunities that come your way.
Thank you very much for that, Nyari. Prof. Caroline?
Yes, just to say, we very much encourage our students while you're studying to look for holiday work, to look for internships, but it doesn't have to be formalized with a company. So remember when you walk out with a qualification, whether a certification or a higher education degree, diploma, that shows that you have knowledge. You've written exams, you've achieved certain credits. But what companies are looking for, and there's always a dreaded word of experience, right? They're saying, oh, you've got this qualification, but we need you to work in the industry for a bit before we'll employ you. And it's this catch-22 for graduates. But I was chatting to people the other day looking at employing our IT graduates, and they said what they like to see on CVs is people applying their knowledge. So if you're a programmer, you don't have to go and get an internship to program. You could go and write a website for a friend's business, get someone online as a way of showing that you've taken your programming skills, you've applied it, and here's proof of the application that I've done. You could go and, assist in the university you're working at in terms of just some holiday work in running some cable or, basic things to show that you are more than the qualification and more than the degree or the certification that you have, which also then speaks to passion and putting in that extra effort and that extra time, which is very much what companies are looking like. They don't want people sitting there taking the salary, doing the bare minimum with no kind of passion. So it's, if you're going to go into IT, that's what's needed. It's that extra effort. And certainly look for holiday work. Nyari, as you said, don't expect necessarily a stipend or a salary or anything over that time, but it's purely for that experience and to put on your CV and show I can actually do what my qualification says I can do.
Absolutely. That's very valuable and insightful, Prof. Caroline. I think there's a lot of discussion that's going on, a lot of questions, but we unfortunately cannot cover all of it. The good news, though, is that we can continue with the conversation in the social media platforms. Please do get onto LinkedIn and follow the Institute of IT Professionals page. If you want to ask a question, do ask a question, and one of the professionals can answer. If you are in one of the provinces, join our chapters for their chapter sessions or meetings. The special interest groups on different topics on IT, IT careers and IT topics. Do join in on those special interest groups. And there are webinars that are always being broadcasted and on a regular basis. Please do join in. By following the page, you'll be able to get the notifications about the webinars coming up. The next one being the one about, well, we've got more coming up this coming week, but we've got a video coming up, as Josina said, on ethics and IT, and I do encourage everybody to please look out for that. Let's continue with the chats and maybe also connect up with each other if you would like to ask more questions. All my guests have open arms and open ears. They should be able to answer you in the time that they will find. I do believe you all have a passion to advance our society. So I'm opening this to everybody who's a guest here to engage with you on any basis that is possible. I appreciate your time. So it does bring us to an end of our discussion in this webinar. But yes, let's continue thereafter. I would like to really, really thank my guests, Prof. Carolyn Thompson, Nyari Samshonga, Misha Ngobeni. I think the discussions that we had were really insightful and valuable. I gained quite a bit out of it. I hope everybody has taken something from it. Thanks for everybody who participated. Josina, thank you for jumping in when I asked you to. And all the participants who answered the questions for the other participants, please, thank you very much for that. It's much appreciated. Please keep well. And I really hope we can meet again in another discussion, because this is definitely a topical topic. So we do need to engage more frequently about it and make sure that everybody can follow their passion. And if it's in IT, let them find it. With that said, I really hope you have a great evening and you find your passion in IT. All the best. Thank you very much.